Hello, my name is Troy Adu here,
I'm Tyler Hoskins.
and you're listening to our Sick Ass podcast. Kia ora, and welcome to another episode of the Sick Ass podcast. Our guest here today is probably just as passionate about physical activity in the kind of space that we're in as I am, if not, maybe slightly more. So I think we're going to have some pretty good discussions coming in here. Someone who actually works with people, not just on the theory of working with people, but actually in there and kind of getting people across the lifespan or different ages involved. But we've got plenty to talk about today, a little bit of research, a little bit of practical field work as well. So today's guest, Lily Purdon, sitting in with us today.
Ooh. Thank you for having me. That was the best introduction I've ever been given, so
Oh.
I feel honoured.
Yeah, well, we can end the podcast there then. But yes, no, thank you for coming in. I have known Lily for quite a few years now. She also went through the beloved phys ed school, but we'll have a little bit of a discussion on that as we go. So the first thing, I guess, for listeners who want to know how it is that you come about feeling the way that you do and understanding your reasons for why you wanted to get into physical activity is, we'll just look at your, I guess, background in sporting stuff or physical activity in general, and then why you came through into phys ed as a degree.
Cool, sounds good. So born and bred in Dunedin, I guess, and went to Otago Girls High School, played a lot of sport growing up. My poor parents would drive me to and from everywhere for sports practices and sports games, which was great. And then I guess through sport, I just grew into a really good relationship with fitness, which led to then moving on to PE school, which probably isn't what I intended to do, but it's just kind of where my passion was. So I just fell somewhere in there, and then the journey's just continued over the last 6 years.
Nice. And in getting into phys ed, I guess it was, thinking about myself and thinking about other guests that have come on, every time I asked them, it's like, so why did you choose PE? It's always something to do with like sport or something like that, but no one really had an idea of where they could have gone. Did you have like perceptions of where you were going to go?
It's funny that you say that, because when I was at school, I guess I always wanted to do something in fitness because I had a good relationship with it, but before uni, so my year 13, I remember preaching to people like, don't go to PE school, like it's just not my cup of tea, it's all theory, there's no practical. And it's funny because once I guess I chose that path for some reason, I saw the other side of it kind of. I did a lot more practical, and I think it's kind of the positions you put yourself in, but yeah, I never probably thought I'd end up what I'm doing now or what I'm expected to do in the future back when I was in year 13 or even when I was in 3rd, 4th year of PE. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, so how did your perceptions change, I guess, of you kind of in that space where you're like, nah, it's not really, but then going through it, and what were the types of things in your head that started ticking over to being like, actually, I can make a really big go of this?
Yeah, so I guess first year was just went with the flow, did my papers. I think I got straight C pluses the whole of first year.
Ooh.
Second year, I think I kind of started to find that I liked prescription stuff, that sort of thing was where I would like to head. Third year I got involved with a clinic called PEPSA, which was involved with elderly people exercising, and then that's where my passion sort of fell. And then fourth year kept kind of going with that, and then kind of became my niche, and I guess that's where I headed off doing masters looking at that same thing. So yeah, somehow it definitely changed from where I thought I wanted to be. I thought I wanted to work with athletes, and now here I am working with people over the age of 65, and I bloody love it.
Yeah,
so.
That's awesome. So prescription is something that we can always talk about, and it's not one of these blanket things that we could ever just say, like, once you know prescription, you know all prescription.
Yeah,
so you're talking about working like more geriatric, so 65 plus,
yeah.
Which is, it's a very important age range to work with. That's kind of where I started my research journey. But before we even get there, there's one prescription guru who we had, and he's now your supervisor. So
Phil.
how did coming into his paper change your perception of, maybe not being the athlete or not wanting to work with athletes?
Well, it was actually in Phil's paper. He did a paper, if anyone doesn't know, Phil Hancock was probably the turning point of my PE school career. An amazing man. He did 2 papers which are based on prescription. The first one was just general population. The second one was athletic program for athletes. And that's probably where I found my confidence in programming. I had started programming for myself since I was so young that I didn't realise how much knowledge I did have. And I remember actually at the end of in that paper, he did like a wee questionnaire saying, if you want to work with children, put your hand up. And then he was like, if you want to work with athletes up to the age of like 30, put your hand up. If you want to work from people from 30 to sort of 55, put your hand up. If you want to work with older people, put your hand up. I was the only person who put their hand up for over 60s, and I remember he pointed at me and he was like, you know, that's the one person who's going to make money, because that's where it is.
Yeah.
And here it is, like, the class is like 80 people, and 60 of them were like wanting to work with athletes, and you know, and I just remember being like, oh, maybe I have found my wee niche which kind of fits in somewhere, and that was probably the turning point, I guess.
And so you were talking about how you thought PE school was like mostly theory, and you didn't really get that hands-on experience, but you had clinic hours that you had to do. Do you want to just have a little chat about the first time, or kind of your evolution through working with people? Yeah,
so I guess I first worked with people through the clinic. So if anyone doesn't know, PEPSA is pretty much for anyone over sort of the age of 65. It's a lot of ex-uni lecturers, that sort of thing, that come in twice a week. There's pretty much a circuit set up, and they just move around that circuit, and pretty much students get taken into there to pretty much supervise and that sort of thing. So I volunteered for 2 weeks, got to know a few of them, started helping them personally with different things they had going on, as well as, you know, they wanted to know more about different movements and that sort of thing. And then from there, that was kind of the start of the big bang, I guess. And then after that, I went back every week, in and out, and then eventually I just kind of started running it and loved it, and now it's just carried on for another 2 years on its own, which is great. So as you're going through that, I think something that a lot of people don't know is that, like, the fulfillment from actually being a coach or actually helping people through movement is not when they lose weight or do anything like. It's actually when they start doing cool stuff and they get proud of themselves doing cool things. Definitely. So how has your philosophy either changed or stayed the same and just grown stronger about movement, like kind of grown or whatever? So I guess, I think the first biggest thing is going from theory to practical is a huge thing I found, because I think when you're studying at PE, you're constantly looking at programming and prescription and stuff, and then when you put it into play, I guess that's when that proudness, I guess, comes in. So you're taking people through workouts, and whatever their goals are, you see them achieve them, makes you feel like you know what you're doing, but as well, like, it's huge steps, especially for elderly, like, you know, tiny sort of changes in how they can move or how they can adapt to their life as they get older is massive. And I guess that shapes probably my philosophy and the way I train people now, both old and young, just because I guess that is just where that passion lies. Absolutely. And fits in. Yeah, and I mean, I think Phil was pretty right. You're the one who's going to make all the money because everyone ages. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that was always something that I kept in my head the whole time, is that if you want to work with athletes, you've got 5% of the population, whereas 95% of people are the people who need to move, and they're always looking for people. Now, prior to this, you were talking about how during your time as a PE student, you did a few certifications on the side. Yep. And how did that kind of shape your mind around this whole fitness industry / PT world? Don't get me started. So, in my 4th year at PE school, I wanted to get my reps registration, and you can't get that through PE. Not sure why, but we just can't. So I did an online personal training course, which was an interesting experience. It was pretty much, you had a year to complete about, 50 or so assignments, and it kind of baffled me that I could do all those assignments, just off what I'd learned from PE school, but the bare minimum you needed to be a PT kind of blew my mind. Like, you think about doctors and everything, like, doctors have to spend how many years training, but yet we're in charge of looking after people's bodies and making their bodies the healthiest they can be, and yet you can do this course I could have knocked down in 3 months, and like, the bare minimum I knew was what I had to know to be. It was crazy. So I think, keeping in mind with being personal trainers, I think it's an honour to be a personal trainer, but also, like, there's a lot of weight that comes with it, like what can happen to your clients and stuff like that is kind of scary, and I think you need to kind of keep that practice up and know your theory as well as being able to put it into practice. So have there been any instances, I guess, where you saw firsthand that having a little bit of a deeper knowledge of physiology and anatomy and all that has kind of taken you above what other people would
generally know just from a regular PT course?
Yeah, definitely. I've had friends who are personal trainers, and they'll come to me asking questions about how to train clients because of, I don't know, high blood pressure, or they've had a heart attack in the past, or injuries. And I guess to me, because I have this knowledge to do with elderly, it's just what I assume is the bare minimum for knowledge for PTs. And I think it's the same. Like, I've personally experienced, working with elderly, I think it's expected that you experience some sort of illness or something to happen while you're working. So I've unfortunately experienced 2 people have strokes before in a gym setting. And I guess it's how you react to them with the knowledge you have, which makes the difference. And to be honest, both times, pretty much how quickly you can react can be life-changing as well.
Absolutely.
which is crazy when you think about it, that 10 seconds could be the difference between a life or death situation. So so I'm happy that I know the knowledge I do for situations like that.
Yeah. But then someone like you, I don't think, you've gone on to higher research and you want to keep moving on with actually learning in this area, so you're not one of those people who thinks you're ever going to know it all, which is always the good first step to working with different people, because how I see people is basically like your laptop, how it's always updating. If we stayed on those old ass computers, like, we wouldn't be able to compute the same way and keep up with everything that's going on now. But I think personally for you, having to go through that sort of stuff, like, you're never really taught that. So how did you pull yourself out of, because it's easy to take blame for anything and it's easy to just be like, that was under my watch. Like, what did you do to kind of try to keep yourself safe?
I guess the first time it happened, it was a big shock to the system, just because I guess as a personal trainer, you never think you'll be in that situation. You're like, I know that happens to people, but not going to happen to me, sort of thing. And I guess I was lucky that there was so many, witnesses or other people around that they were like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much. Like, if you didn't know what we were doing, like, we would have all just stood round and, like, poor, would have been, like, God knows what would have happened.
Absolutely.
So I think that sort of praise kind of helped settle me the first time and almost, like, gave me the confidence that I did know what I was doing in situations like that. And then the second time it happened, I was, I backed myself enough to be like, okay, cool. Like, I know what to do. I just need to, like, help this person as much as possible, get some people here and all that. So I think it comes with experience, unfortunately enough, but at the same time, it's just knowing you're as prepared as possible as well in that sort of setting. So
absolutely, just being as prepared as possible for anything, because we really don't know. I mean, like I said, with the computing thing, we don't know what could come up in every single situation. You just have to be ready. So with that, there's 2 things. There's kind of your interpersonal relationships, so like figuring out how you can actually deal with different people, and then there's also just knowing that anything like that can happen. Like, some adverse event could come up, and just having that wits about you to be ready. But speaking of experience, you're working now?
So I work as a personal trainer out of the women's only gym in Dunedin called Inspiring Women. There's a shout out for my boss. But so I work out of there. So only women in the gym. So I work with pretty much all ages, from, I think my youngest client at the moment is 16 up to my oldest being 67, actually. She had her 67th birthday the other day.
Awesome.
So
happy birthday for the other day.
So wide range of clients, which is pretty cool. And it's nice being able to work with a large range, because I guess it just helps my knowledge and adapt my current sort of theory to new people and that sort of thing. So I feel pretty lucky that I do work on the side of the study I do. So
But you've also had, like, experience working with men as well?
Yes, so through the clinic, I guess, is probably where most of my male experience comes from. So at the moment I run an exercise clinic mainly based for elderly, so I think the youngest we have at the moment is actually 45, so not elderly at all. But so it's normally for older adults, I guess we should say. So through them I do a lot of programming, a lot of personal training, just a lot of overlooking and sort of creating ways for older adults to enjoy exercise and feel confident in a gym and that sort of thing. So
So we'll get to the elderly stuff soon, but I'm quite interested in, like, the female only space. because I've talked to Zoe about this, how she is running CrossFit Women's, and she just talked about the environment that you can create for these women to actually be comfortable being who they are, but also that training is slightly different. We can't just I don't know if you're aware of Stacey Sims, but a lot of her stuff, Dr. Stacey Sims, she's just talking about how we can't train females like smaller men. Like there's so many different things to keep in mind. So how has that opened your eyes to how individualized programming has to be?
Yeah, I guess, individualized programming is a big thing for me, and I think I preach it probably far too often, but especially working in a female-only gym, I guess everyone is so different, and especially with females when it comes to hormonal changes and that sort of thing, it really does change how you can train someone, how they're feeling, that sort of thing. And I think especially with women's sort of, I guess, this perception in society of how they look and their aesthetics and stuff, it is, I guess you have to be sort of sensitive. How do you approach some situations and what you put emphasis on and how you train people? So I guess it's almost in some senses harder to train some females depending on what's going on in their lives and that sort of thing, but it's actually quite rewarding in the same sense. So
So what are the conversations like that you have with a lot of them who are either starting up or finding that they're in a difficult position or a difficult place in their own life to get into the gym?
So I find one thing we find with heaps of clients is it's like actually scary for people who have never been to a gym before. Like stepping into a gym is like a huge first step, and like I honestly would pat anyone on the back who does like walk in that door for the first time, because it blows my mind. Like I can think how scared I was walking into a gym when I was 15, and I'm like, imagine doing that, being like, oh, here I am, 40, I'm about to walk into a gym, there's going to be young people running around me and all this stuff. And then I guess from there, it's kind of easing these people into the gym, showing them that it doesn't have to be a scary place, that it can be really fun and enjoyable. And then it's kind of, I guess the biggest thing I talk about is sort of that goal setting and that motivation, because that's what's going to keep that fitness journey sustainable and that sort of thing. So. And
what types of goals are you trying to get these people looking at?
I guess a lot of, especially when it comes to women, well, I guess anyone, to be honest, like aesthetic goals tend to be quite high on the list. And that's fine. I'm all for people wanting to become healthier or lose weight or tone up or, look a certain way. But I guess these aren't always achievable, and you need to plan other goals. Like I always talk about maybe just setting goals about setting a good routine, about strength, your fitness, flexibility, all these things. Because you can see some people be really down and be like, oh, but I haven't lost that much weight. But you're like, yeah, but you now can run 5K without stopping. Like Absolutely. You couldn't run when you showed up here. Or I've had clients who have, blood pressure's been dropped dramatically, and, their medications have been cut in half and stuff like that, which I'm like, in the big scheme of things is what matters.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty powerful, but unfortunately some people do get stuck on that sort of weight loss side. So it's creating goals that help people. I don't know, you can have goals around anything, but it's having goals that complement each other, but can keep you motivated at the same time. So
And how do you, so I guess with some of those you're going to have tracking along the way, and then these people are going to see like, oh, I can actually do that. But how is it that you consistently remind them that they actually are becoming just a better person even every time they walk in? Because I've had multiple times where people come in and they really think they haven't gone anywhere, no matter how many times you show them. So what does that kind of conversation look like?
I think it's actually a really tough one, and I think that's when, this might sound really stupid, but it comes down to your almost like personal relationship with them in a way. So like, I have a lot of clients at the gym who I think all the trainers I work with are great, and we all have different styles, but a lot of my clients that come to me isn't because how I train or anything like that, it's because of our connection and how we get along personally. So it's almost that confidence and that sort of trust that I can say to them like, look, like, shut up, like you've actually done this, like you need to be proud of yourself right now. And they've been like, oh yeah, that's true. And I'm like, remember like a year ago when you couldn't even do a box jump, and now here you are doing this? And they're like, oh yeah. So I think as you get to know someone and you're with them on their fitness journey, it almost, I don't know, that trust sort of grows, that you can almost not pull them into line, but you almost tell them like straight up, like, like you've actually achieved a lot, like you've got a lot to, be thankful for that you've done in the last year and where you are. So Yeah, and to be honest, it's down to just your relationships, which is crazy, but it does make a massive difference. So,
it's huge,
yeah.
and I think people don't look at it enough. We're dealing with humans here. We're not everyone gets so focused on their programming. Like, I do this. Oh, they like suck at training because my program should make them better. And it's like, no. Sometimes they just want someone to talk to and feel like they can be comfortable being there with you. Like, there's multiple times where in there you see the relationship growing, where it goes from like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the library after this, to like, oh man, we watched this on Netflix, and it's just like they become. Yeah, and then I guess it's trying to balance that.
Yeah,
it's like not being too much of a friend, and so
it's trying to keep that like professional line there, but having that sort of like friendliness, I guess. Like I got a client who brings me food every week, and like I love her. She's great, and like we talk about her family and stuff like that. But it's not like, oh yeah, should we go watch a movie tomorrow night? I don't know. So it's like knowing enough about each other that like you're on a personal level, but you're not friends, I guess. I don't know. There's like that line you're trying to keep.
Absolutely. Like they're coming in to be there with you and share this experience with you. Because there's multiple times where I guess they'd walk into a gym, and if they're changing people all the time, like it's hard to build that rapport. Yeah,
exactly. And I think this is probably something that massively gets understated when learning to be a personal trainer. I guess especially things like social media now really cut this in half. But I don't know. Anyone essentially can get a personal training like certificate, and it's, I guess, the people that end up being successful in it are the ones that can build relationships, know how to program to an individual and that sort of thing. So I think like it's a massive tool being able to communicate and be personable, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
and those are transferable skills to pretty much everything in life. Like if you can have conversations with people and make people feel like safe, I think you're always going to be in a better place than you would if you couldn't. Now, this brings us to something that makes us a little bit more similar, and everyone's going to listen to this and be like, Yarns, but I take a lot of energy trying to work with a lot of people. So how is it that Lily actually looks after herself, like energy-wise, because you said it before, apparently you're more introverted. Yeah. So how is it that you get to actually balance living life as like a trainer to then having a social life?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I've had a few conversations with this at people who I work with, and they're like, you're not an introvert. Like, you walk around the gym the whole day and you're smiling and you're talking to people and like, you don't seem shy or anything. But I was like, no, like I, unfortunately, not to insult Troy at all, but other than my family and my 3 best friends, everyone drains my energy essentially. So as much as I love hanging out with people and talking to people and socializing, it does drain me, which is fine. And like, now that I know that, it's probably a lot easier to deal with it. But I guess that is a tough thing because I work about 30 hours a week, and then I'm also studying, and I've got meetings, and I have my own wee clinic on the side. So in my own time, I guess socializing and it's kind of difficult. I think I just finding that I do find I have my me time quite a bit, which is nice, and you just have to schedule that in, just like it's anything else. Absolutely. I guess like just like work hours, you schedule in me time, I guess. And then I guess the people I do hang out with the most are the ones that are in my bubble that I do find easy just to chill with or do not much with. But it's trying to find that work-life balance, which I guess can be hard. But we manage. I'm still here, so we're managing okay.
Yeah, it is one of those things. I think sometimes you just need to take a bit of time out and realize that you're doing it so that you can be better for the people you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we'll move away from work life, and we're actually going to go into a bit of your research now. Cool. So I think you're absolutely correct with your ideas of where you want to be and kind of the fulfillment that you get from the people that you do want to work with. But you're currently doing a master's. If you can tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm doing a master's of applied science. The stream I went through was exercise and health at the Otago Polytechnic. So my research, I guess, is about elderly health and fitness, with their biggest factor of poor health being falls and that sort of thing. So I started looking at falls prevention, kind of came along this idea of balanced programs and how to assess if someone is high risk, low risk, that sort of thing. So so my thesis is about pretty much a balance program or a balance test to see how high need someone is for help or for a falls prediction sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the actual program that you're going to do, is it you're more looking at the test itself, or you're going to develop a program, or?
So for my master's thesis, I was looking at a specific test. So I'm pretty much, the biggest thing that these tests struggle with is that they're all done in a lab. People can fully focus on what they're doing, and it's not really applicable to the real world.
Yeah.
So, people can do, 30-second chair to stand sort of test as quick as they can, but once they're walking around their own house and the phone's ringing and they're trying to get the washing done, that's when this sort of mind body sort of lapse happens. So I guess I was trying to make a test that involves both mind and body sort of dual tasking to see if this is a better prediction, which so far it's looking good.
So what are the elements that you have involved with, like, the cognitive and the physical side? Like, what types of things are you trying to keep in it, or movement wise?
Yeah, so we're pretty much looking at, there's a test called the best test, and it's pretty much just basic standing. So standing on 2 feet, 1 foot, and then with almost your feet heel toe.
Like a tandem.
Yeah. And then the other aspect is called the Cower test. So it's pretty much you're given a letter and you've got to name as many words as possible starting with that letter in the space of that time. And it's funny when you do this testing and you see people and how, I guess, their balance really shifts as soon as there's a cognitive task in place. Was almost mind-blowing. Like, I didn't expect it to have that much of an effect, and it just shows how people can do really well in these tests in a lab, but then in the real world they can have 3, 4, 5 falls a year, which is crazy. So
do you know what the current stat is for people over 65 in New Zealand?
It's pretty, for over 65, gosh, you got me thinking back to my introduction of my thesis now. I know that, I want to say,
or maybe like New Zealanders in general. It's high, right?
Yes, I think it's like
it's at
a
least
third
of the population,
over 65s, and then once it becomes over 85, it's like over 50%. So it's quite crazy how high numbers or like high percentages there are of people falling.
And what have you found? I don't know if you're dealing with people yet, or through the literature, what have you found besides increasing age? It's something that we kind of know, because as you're increasing age, you have less of all these other things and reaction time. But what are the, I guess, risk factors for people who are going to be more likely to fall?
Yeah, so there's probably a few main ones. Is once you're over 65, how many medications you're on. So normally we say once you're over 3 medications, that suddenly increases your risk. Previous like falls you've had, so especially if you've fallen in the last year, it's suddenly, I think it's by like 6 folds you've got another. It's like pretty ridiculous. They're pretty much the main 3 that I know that different programs like Live Stronger for Longer, those sort of things look at, especially when they're talking to people who need sort of falls assessments. But yeah, it's crazy. There's so many factors. People's footwear, their access to their house, their carpet, like, there's so many different things that interact to, I guess, make falls happen or not happen. So, yeah.
And for those of you listening who are just like, falls, why is that so important? Like, if you can't stop yourself from falling, like, I know we're younger and we're a bit more resilient, but we also have a faster reaction time. So if we were to fall, we're able to put ourselves in a position where we're safe. Whereas if you are older and you're a bit more frail in your frame and you don't have that fast reaction time, you can easily break a hip, which could then be fatal. And if they live alone and they do fall, there's nothing they can do. Sometimes they can't even get up from where they are because of the damage. So this is why this work is so important. Sorry, I just needed to reiterate that.
No, and it's funny because there's like programs in the UK that literally teach elderly to bum shuffle, for the fact that if they fall and they break a hip, they can bum shuffle to the phone. Because there's people that fall and their daughter's not visiting until the weekend, so they've got 3 days lying on the floor. Like, so it can be fatal, and unfortunately, like, it is a thing that happens, and so many elderly do die of falls, which is terrible, or if not, leads to other things that then lead to fatalities. Like, I know there's a lot of elderly that then move to homes because of this, or it leads to other ongoing issues, or, because you've broken a hip, you can't move as much, so then your functional fitness decreases massively, and then, leads to other problems later on. So it's pretty scary, and it's pretty, it's a third of the elderly population. So it's kind of scary how many people that is in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
So,
and if we're thinking about like the social side of all of this, is that people do actually, some of the literature was saying that some of the people do end up like they stop living the life that they used to live. So I mean, we can increase someone's life with all this different medication and all that sort of stuff, but their actual quality of life starts to decrease because they can't go see their friends anymore. Well, they can, but they're so scared because they might fall. Like, there's so many different things going on that if all you think is like, they should just move, they're lazy, you're a bastard. But
but it's also like, unfortunately, it's a huge confidence thing. Like, imagine literally every time you go to stand up, you're like, can I make it to the kitchen counter to make my lunch because I'm scared of tripping over, it's massive. And it does stop them from doing things. And I think I'm lucky that I run a clinic where everyone who I work with is reasonably active, but it's huge. Like, it's not only a social time, it's a workout time.
Absolutely.
It's it's so lucky that it incorporates so many sort of aspects of people's lives that, but I imagine that all stopping would be pretty tough for someone. So
when that does finish and you do have like some pretty good data on where this could take you, where does it take you?
That's a good question. So at the moment, I'm looking at finishing my thesis in about end of September, and then looking at potentially starting my PhD next year. So going more in depth on this. I think, I don't know, my wee niche and my passion in elderly health and fitness and falls prevention, as much as I love it, and I think, I have all this knowledge, there's so much more to know, and there's so much more research to be done, not only because I'm interested, but because there's so many people to help. So I guess that it's never ending. I guess I go into more research and do my PhD, and then hopefully through my PhD I can keep researching, but also teach people about this stuff, and almost raise awareness and teach other people how to deal with it, and how to almost help train people to help prevent falls and all that. So it's a big journey.
No, that's awesome. And I think research in itself is, the cool thing that I found from my research journey is the fact that I get to look at things daily that I would be doing if I was unemployed. So like, I'm passionate about everything that I do, and it's so cool that I'm in a position where people expect me to be doing what I would have been doing anyway. So now I'm like, oh yes, cool, I've got a justification for looking at all these papers on like this one test. But just coming back to your test again, when you do find that someone, say, is at a very like high risk, or maybe they're more at risk than the rest of the population, what are the types of things that you would like to intervene and do with that person?
I guess that's a tough bit, and I guess there's already sort of jobs in place. There's people who normally work in the community called needs assessors, and they go around but what they're doing is they're essentially trying to safe-proof someone's house or that sort of thing. They're not actually helping the person. So that's looking at footwear, flooring, the accessibility into homes, that sort of thing. But I feel like we almost need to rein it back, almost talk about this before people get 65 plus, and then like I always tell people, like, the reason why I train at the moment is not only like for my own mental health and physical health, but also like I want to be a 70-year-old who's running around with my grandchildren on the football field. Like I don't want to be I would hate to think that I'm 65 and in a home. And I think it's almost like you just need to think about this a few years prior, put a few things in place to help your fitness and that sort of thing, and then your quality of life increases massively once you get to 65. So
so we're looking at active aging.
So pretty much.
And well, this is the one thing that flipped my head when I was at this. So my very first conference that I went to was the New Zealand Association of Gerontology, and I remember there, like, it was called active aging, and I was just sitting there and I was like, once we're born, we are aging. Like, from that, so we need to stop. I think you're so right. You need to stop looking at like attacking them at 65. We need to like think about the entire lifespan that everyone's working with. So I guess that's where, oh man, it's all coming full circle, because you were talking about not focusing on aesthetics and actually focusing on like functional goals at the beginning. So how, I mean, I don't know if this changes the way you feel about everything, or if you're just like, so I'm already there, Troy, thanks for just catching up now. But like, what does Lily do for training, and what is that then going to do for the people that you're working with?
So I guess like my training sort of schedule at the moment is I normally try and run a few times a week.
Yeah.
And then I go to CrossFit Dunedin. I do that about 5 times a week. And yeah, like my clients ask me all the time, why do I train? And I'm like the physical, like aesthetic side of things is the last thing on my list. I'm like, one, I want to be a cool old person who can run around.
Yeah.
Like that's very high on the list. 2, I guess when we were talking about that sort of introvert thing, like exercise is a huge way for me to mentally let go of a lot of stuff, especially once I've had 6 hours at work and I'm like, cool, go work it out, go home, that sort of thing. And then when it comes to training clients, I guess because that's my passion, it almost does rub off on them a little bit, because you do get to know them personally and they get to know you a little bit personally and they understand why these things are so important to me.
Right.
And it kind of puts it in their head like, oh yeah, like cool, I'm only 35, but like everything I do now impacts future me, essentially. So by me training and staying fit now and keeping healthy, that's only going to help me for when I'm older, right? So yeah, it kind of does come full circle in a way.
Yeah, so we're looking at the big picture of life here. And just, I mean, you don't have to say names or anything and keep it very confidential, but like thinking about themes of the types of people who come in, how do they change and how do they transform once they start to realize the importance of just being an awesome human being?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think especially working at the gym, the biggest thing that blows my mind is confidence. Yeah. Like I literally can't fathom enough that people that come in and they're so scared and shy and their goals, I guess, are probably aesthetics based because that's what they think is going to make them happy and confident, and then they start training and cool, like they might shift a little bit of weight or start to look different, but they also like got this newfound confidence because they're learning all this cool stuff in the gym and they're suddenly like, oh my gosh, I can lift this much more than I did and I can suddenly run this far, and it's like almost you see these people evolve a little bit from where they were to like how these goals and what they've learnt has kind of shifted not only what they are like in the gym but in real life as well, which is pretty crazy and pretty cool that you can have that impact on people. So yeah.
And when you see that, what does it then do to you? Does it have any rub off on you? Or?
Well, yeah, it's huge motivation, I guess. So not only is it personally motivating but also professionally, like it makes me want to keep going with what I do, I guess, like big time. When you realize that you've had that sort of success with a client, you just want to show that to more people and let that rub off on more people as you can. And then personally, I guess same thing, it makes me want to train harder or do more in my life in anything, whether it's research or working out or personal relationships, that sort of thing. So yeah,
I think that's so cool. I think it's one of those things where the more mature you become, the more you start to realize like there's more to life than just the way we look and the money we have. Like it's how we can actually give to other people, which is such a backwards thing in your head, because a lot of the time you're like, I'm going to do this so that I feel good, but I feel that the things that make you feel the best are like counterintuitive to what you think. You're like, if I can help this person, I will feel really good. And it's like, wait, shouldn't I be happy? Yeah, I don't know.
There was like a kid's book and it was talking about like if you fill up someone else's bucket, you're essentially filling up your own, if that makes sense. So like, by making other people happy, you're kind of making yourself happy at the same time. It's like self-fulfillment in a way, you know? So it's like, I guess from doing things like, I guess now I'm like, I'm going to do a PhD, not because I want to be a doctor or anything, but because I like want to help people, and I guess in turn that will help me with my own career. So Absolutely. It is kind of like the more you do stuff for other people, it does come back to help you, I guess, as well, which is pretty cool. So another full circle moment just then.
Absolutely.
So,
and just, I mean, we're talking about a PhD, you've got your niche. There's not many people particularly in that realm, especially here in New Zealand, which is always good because you kind of become that person that people are like, hey, Lily, we'll just get her on, and then it becomes, there's this weird transition point, and it was the same as when I got considered an adult, where I was like, wait, I'm still a kid, but people start seeing you as that person to go to. That's probably already started now, has it?
Which kind of blows my mind because I'm like, I'm 23-year-old, like I feel like I don't have that much experience, but because it's my niche and I've done so much study on it, you think like, who else in, like, let's just say New Zealand has done this much study and research on this particular topic? Like, not many, any.
If
just
any,
like,
yeah, shout out
well, that
Skype.
was great. Yeah, so it's kind of cool when people start asking you questions about what you used to ask questions about.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, in a way sort of humbling, but it's at the same time kind of scary. I'm like, whoa, what? You shouldn't be asking me. I'm 23. I don't know what I'm talking about. But then you're kind of like, well, actually, light bulb moment, there's all these things I can tell you right now to help you.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I am suddenly that wee person who is this wee bubble of knowledge, I guess, which is exciting and scary at the same time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think as long as I'm sort of ever evolving with my knowledge and keep researching this sort of topic, then yeah, I'll forever be happy, I think. So,
I 100% agree with you. And the hard part is being able to pat yourself on the back when you do cool stuff.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of the people who do go through this degree would do anything for free anyway. We try to help as many people as we can, and we don't ever see our own value. So this is me just saying to you now, like, definitely back yourself in what you're doing, and I hope you are, like, giving yourself pats on the back.
But it's a hard thing to learn, I guess.
Yeah.
Like for anyone, especially in the fitness industry. I feel like so many people play down what they've achieved or something,
Yeah.
And it's not until, I guess, we sat down earlier before this and chatted, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, there is stuff I've done and I've achieved and that sort of thing. Like, you're like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty eye-opening, I guess, when you sit down and you look at what you've done on paper or something, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. I think just because you keep going through everything as well, like everything just kind of goes into one big sandwich, and you're like, oh yeah, I haven't done much. And then when you actually have to force yourself to go through, you're like, shivers, it's been a long time.
Yeah,
like,
it's been a journey.
Yeah, I've grown a lot. So we finished with one final question, and because what we kind of want to do is we want to get all these different people who are doing amazing things all over the board to kind of give us an idea of what would make them feel optimal. So it's almost a daily habit, and hopefully one day what we can do is like collate everyone that we've ever had on, and we just say all these different things, and then people can look at that and be like, ooh, I might want to take that, I might want to take that. So what we're doing is, once again, kind of comes full circle. Here we go, we're all about our circles here, and you giving one last thing to everyone out there about something that you do close to daily that makes you feel like you have either owned the day or feel like you're optimized for the day.
Yeah, okay. It is very small.
Yeah.
But if I do not do this, my day is just out of whack. But every morning I wake up, I pretty much make my bed and I clean my room, because I don't know why. I think I read it in a book originally somewhere that making your bed every day, it's like, even if nothing else goes your way that day, you come home and you've achieved one thing, and it's that you made your bed. So like the first task is done.
Yeah.
And also it's just so satisfying to come home.
Yeah.
My room's tidy. I'm like, nothing else I have to do. I can mentally switch off. So yeah, it's small, but mentally I feel like it's just a great step to take in the morning, So yeah, might sound boring, but making your bed made a huge difference to my life.
Yep.
So yeah.
So we're up, we make our bed. Okay, just to be the 10th man here, have you ever not made your bed?
Yep, and it throws me out.
What did it do? Oh yeah, yeah.
It's so bad. Like first of all, it throws me out because it's normally because I'm in an extreme rush anyway.
Yeah.
But then I come home and it's just a bit sad,
Right.
Like you walk into your room and it's just not how it's meant to be, and I just don't like it. So I think I did it once and I've never done it again. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
So that's your thing? You like to make your bed and make sure that your room is tidy?
Yep, easy as that.
Very nice. Cool. Well, if there's anything else you want to throw out there, or you're pretty good to finish there?
No, that's all good. Thank you for having me. That was a great chat.
No, it was an amazing chat, and I think there's plenty more in there, but when your research does start to finish up and we can start to see where you're looking at going in the future, we'll have you back on. I think it'll be fantastic to have a little chat about that. So that has been another episode of the Sick As podcast. We've had an extremely amazing guest in today talking about her experiences through physical activity, and we just want to say to those people out there who think that training people is very, very easy, I'd like you to go have a quick reflection, because there are plenty of things that you need to actually consider when dealing with people in general. But once we get through that, and once people can start to realize it, I think we'll be closer to being in a better place for this fitness industry.
Exactly.
Lily, thank you so much.